Good evening, everybody. Welcome to St. Peter's in Hove. And it's time to look at the next psalm, which is Psalm 139, brackets 140. And this constitutes our 202nd step in our walking tour through the Bible. Now, the reason I like this psalm, or the reason I want to discuss this psalm, is it's one of those few psalms that's had a few verses cut out. Now, here it is in the breviary. Rescue me, Lord, from evil men, from the violent keep me safe, from those who plan evil in their hearts and stir up strife every day, who sharpen their tongue like an adder's, with the poison of viper on their lips. Lord, guard me from the hands of the wicked, from the violent keep me safe. They plan to make me stumble, the proud have hidden a trap, have spread out their lines in a net, set snares across my path. I have said to the Lord, you are my God. Lord, hear the cry of my appeal. Lord, my God, my mighty help. You shield my head in the battle. Do not grant the wicked their desire, nor let their plots succeed. Well, we've heard that sort of more or less before, this idea that people are out to get us and that they have set traps for us, an appeal to Almighty God to protect Israel from the enemies of Israel. And of course, as we read it as Christians, an appeal to Almighty God for Him to protect the church from its enemies. That, of course, is a little bit sharper, if you like, because I mean, the enemies of Israel back in the time of King David was one thing. Our enemies now, that's rather a different sort of thing. Now, this is the bit that's been left out. Here we go. It's verses 10, 11, and 12. And I now turn to the Jerusalem Bible, different translation, of course. Here we go. May red hot embers rain down on them. May they be flung into the mire once and for all. May the slanderer find no rest anywhere. May evil hunt down violent men implacably. So that's the bit that's cut out. Then it continues. I know the Lord will avenge the poor. He will do justice for the needy. Yes, the just will praise your name. The upright shall live in your presence. Now, in fact, I looked at the Knox version, which tends to be a little bit more literal, and it talks about the enemies being sent down, not into the mire, but into the pit. That means Gehenna, into hell, where the red hot coals will rain down on them, I suppose. And may the slanderer find no rest anywhere. May evil hunt down violent men implacably. That's what the Jerusalem Bible says. More literally, in the Knox version, it just says that all those who make plots, may their plots rebound in their faces. May they not prosper, and may they be brought to an end prematurely by their evil longings. May their evil longings sort of rebound upon them. So, who exactly are these enemies that we are facing? Well, Catholicism tends to be rather coy about this, and that's a bit of a pity, I find sometimes. When we face error, what do? Do we call out the error? Do we condemn the people who hold the errors? Or do we just proclaim the truth in the face of error? Well, the obvious thing to do is proclaim the truth in the face of error. That's the first thing. But when somebody is propagating error, propagating violence, they need to be named as such. It is, I think, an obvious point, simply because by not naming Hitler, the church did itself a great disservice and did the people of God a great disservice. If we had named Hitler in the 1930s, things would have been a lot easier. If we had stood up to Hitler, naming him rather than talking in generalities, things might have gone a lot better. In fact, the church did name Hitler in the famous encyclical Mit brennender Sorge, just as it did call out Mussolini in the famous encyclical Non abbiamo bisogno. These two encyclicals, instead of being written in Latin, were written in the vernacular, so nobody could miss the point. And there is evidence that Mussolini backed down, largely because Italy was packed full of Catholics and he couldn't afford to cheese them off too much. Hitler, did he back down? To some extent, yes. But then the line that was taken in Mit brennen der Sorge was then abandoned as a line of conciliation, if you like, or a line of saying nothing, because if we say something, it just makes the situation worse. Rescue me, Lord, from evil men, from the violent keep me safe, those who plan evil in their hearts and stir up strife every day. The stirrers up of strife are the people who are placed by Dante in the very deepest pit of hell, the breeders of division. If somebody speaks the truth, they always risk the accusation that they're breeders of division. Yet sometimes you must speak the truth, and you must remember that the truth is a minority pursuit. The majority don't want to hear the truth, and therefore you will be accused of breeding decision if you speak the truth. Who sharpen their tongue like an adder's with a poison of viper on their lips. Untruth is poisonous. Untruth kills not the body, but kills the soul and poisons the mind, kills the mind. So, what is the violence these people are planning? It's actually not physical violence, at least that's how I don't think we need to read it that way. It's rather the type of violence that messes with the world of ideas, tells us what we know to be false is in fact true, and vice versa. So, for example, let's take a very easy example. Human life begins at conception. No one can seriously argue anything else. You can't really say human life begins at 2 months of pregnancy, 3 months of pregnancy, or the first week of pregnancy. It has to begin at conception, or else it doesn't begin at all. The denial of this amazing truth that human life begins at conception, or the refusal to acknowledge it, leads to all sorts of problems. And one of the problems, obviously, it leads to is the crime of abortion, the sin of abortion, the justification of this sin. But it also leads to something much worse, not quite much worse, but something in the world of ideas that is worse. This idea is the truth is whatever I say the truth is. This is the violence that we're facing today. Right now, today is the 19th of September. Cardinal Zen, who is 90 years old, is facing trial in the People's Republic of China for some trumped up charge of not registering a charity or whatever. In China, there is no such thing as independent judiciary. The criminal justice system is an instrument in the hands of the government used to persecute its enemies. So Cardinal Zen is being persecuted. He might well go to jail or sent to a concentration camp or something like that. Remember, he's 90 years old, just like lots and lots of other Catholic bishops have suffered in the past. But more importantly, if you like, it's rather important for Cardinal Zen that he doesn't go to bed. But for the rest of us, one of the things where we will all suffer is this ridiculous idea that a 90-year-old is somehow or another a threat to the well-being of the Chinese state. Those who speak truth are never a threat. They're to be welcomed. If somebody tells us the truth, they are to be welcomed. Now, I think and he talks about the red hot coals blazing coming in on these people. It's a pity those verses have been cut out, because we should pray fervently that God rebukes those who tell dangerous lies. We should pray that they go down into the pit, that they fall into the trap that they themselves have made. We should, using the idea of the Middle Ages, hell existed, certain theologians said, because those in heaven needed to appreciate the justice of God. And part of contemplation of divine justice was the knowledge that some people went to hell. In other words, hell served a purpose, namely, it was part of the beatific vision, if you like. Although, of course, many theologians have also said this idea of hell forever, people being shut out of the love of God, signifies somehow that God has failed with some people. Other people have countered, well, if human beings have free will, then hell is has got to exist, because if we've got free will, we've also got the ability to reject God forever. That's what hell is, the state of rejecting God forever. One of the things that this psalm reminds us of is the sheer perversity of the human mind. Goodwill is not a universal. The ability to see things as they really are is universal. We believe as Catholics that all people can live in the light of reason. But if you shut out the light of reason, if you say black is white and white is black, then obviously you are a very great sinner and you create hell for other people. You certainly deserve hell for yourself. Funnily enough, it was a well-known critic of the Catholic Church who has written about this more convincingly than anybody else, and that, of course, is Orwell. The party in 1984 has said that war is peace and so on and so forth. In other words, they've said, black is white, and they've created hell for other people. And they themselves are in the sort of hell in that the world they've created is a very bad world to live in. Again, in Animal Farm, which is probably the greater book, you have, all animals are created equal. But some animals are more equal than others, which is, of course, hilariously funny and at the same time terrifying. As a matter of fact, we somehow or another, and this was certainly the case in Stalin's Russia, people are able to believe or to accept or to have in their minds things they know to be false. And this is something we must beware of. God is the God of truth. I remember a great priest I knew when I was a boy who said, people think the greatest virtue is purity. Not so. The greatest virtue is adherence to the truth. So let us be warriors in the cause of truth, because Jesus Christ is the truth. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Hope that helps. All the very best. Bye.